I think the negative stereotypes of Asian men is partly cultural, um, and partly even self-perpetuated. In addition to any uh, negative stereotyping in media. So I mean that's definitely a thing, but I think there's some other aspects to it. Like for example, the stereotype of Asian men being less masculine or weak. Uh, Probably has something to do with the with smaller stature. So on average, uh, Asian people tend to be smaller, shorter, thinner than white or black people. Um, and of course, that has lots to do with traditional diet. We Asian people eat more carbs in like such as rice and noodles and less meat compared to other populations. So that's gonna definitely um, uh, have results differences in um, size. Asian people have been getting larger due to more westernized diets, but even today Asian countries eat less meat than European or Western countries. And then also there is the cultural piece. So East Asian countries, so East Asia meaning China, Japan, Korea, um, they they were heavily influenced by Confucianism. So Confucianism values group versus individual, and really prioritizes the well-being of a group versus individual. So very conscious about maintaining good social relationships. So being considerate of others, um, being uh, prioritizing harmony and not wanting to ruffle feathers. So there's that cultural piece of it. So like it's maybe frowned upon to be like too aggressive or too assertive. So there's that cultural piece. I suppose that could affect the way people view Asian people. And so so I said in a previous video. Uh, so apparently like Asian men and white men who are of the same height and same weight or same BMI index, Asian men tend to have a higher body fat percentage and lower bone density and skeletal muscle mass. So I also stated in that video that as probably has to do uh, with Asian people tending to have longer torsos and shorter limbs, and most the our heaviest muscles are in our legs. So if two people are the same height and one person has longer legs, so even if like the proportionally is same, like the musculature is similar, the person with the longer legs are going to have more muscle mass. So and then the other piece to consider is that Asian people in general are relatively um, thinner and uh, are less likely to be overweight or obese. So you can also consider that, like, if in order for a white person to get to a typical common like Asian person's BMI, then that person probably exercises more, as opposed to the Asian person being just like their regular, like normal, not particularly like fitness-driven person. So in that case, like somebody who's working to maintain the weight will probably have more muscle mass. So and so so I think there's like, with that being said, uh, so I don't think there's much backing to the idea that Asian men are naturally um, like less robust or less strong. So when you consider that, so like the cultural factors and may affect how people view us. And then I think we kind of self-impose those stereotypes where there's a lot of Asian people who believe that they're weaker than people of other races, and I think that that in itself may be influenced by the culture. So it's kind of like a complicated thing where, um, so I don't like the end result of those effects, but I also don't want to state that that culturally like we're somehow like less than or inferior. So I don't think that's the case at all, because I think I do value harmony and treating other people with respect and being considerate of others. I think those are good things, but yeah, I think we really need to like stop self-imposing our own negative stereotypes, because in reality, I don't think uh, I don't think we're weaker. In fact, like as I said in the previous video, in terms of uh, like actual um, like so when you think of masculinity, like what's more demonstrative of that in than athletics. Asian countries typically, particularly the ones in question, China, South Korea, Japan, often do well in weightlifting. They dominate their lower weight class. So again, uh, comparatively smaller, but in their weight class they dominate because having shorter limbs is beneficial for weightlifting. So you don't have to it takes less effort for somebody with shorter arms and legs to lift heavier weights, and the current arguably pound for pound best boxer right now in international competition as well is Inoue. He's 32-0 undefeated, and then his next bout is going to be another 32-0 Japanese boxer. And in the 70s and 80s, South Korea was also pretty dominant in the lower weight classes when Korea wasn't as wealthy a country, and when South Korea became more wealthy, then there was less interest in the sport. So, like, there's apparently there is the benefit of having shorter limbs in those sports, and despite having shorter limbs, um, the the fastest non-West African descent um, person, it was Su Bingtian, who's a Chinese sprinter. So his record for the 100-meter is faster than the record set by a white sprinter. So even though white people have longer legs, but a Chinese sprinter um, has a better fastest time. So um, so I'd imagine if you're like a professional in the sport, then you take your sport and craft seriously. So considering that, the Chinese sprinter um, has a better time, and then typically the best sprinters are often over 6 feet, and Su Bingtian is only 5'9". So if I think there's the self belief that Asian people aren't as athletic, so there's not so they don't there's not much um, focus and development of track and field compared to other sports in Asia. But imagine if they did. Like, so we certainly have people who are basketball player size in Asian countries. So taller athletes don't do sprinting. So if like you had like somebody more closer to the size of Usain Bolt, I think maybe you'd have better track and field results. So I think a lot of our negative stereotypes are self-imposed. I mean, that's not the key thing. There's certainly outside media influence from Western media. There's a cultural aspect. Um, so like it doesn't necessarily have to level with the actual truth of things. So I think these negative stereotypes are harmful, and having this knowledge going forward, I think maybe will help us combat these stereotypes.